Hey guys, I'm so excited for my next guest who just radiates beauty. Elle Callanan is a lifestyle coach and decorator partnering with clients to grow more peace and spaciousness in their home and lives. Her mantra is there is always a solution, meaning everything is possible when we live in soul-centered presence and honor our lives, abounding creative resources. Elle works with both men and women who desire to complete a special project, from organizing a closet to completing a masterpiece, as well as anyone wishing for consistent support and partnership as they define the life that they most want to live. Welcome, Elle.
Thank you, Stacy. I'm so happy to spend this time with you. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
You're welcome.
It's just been such a pleasure getting to know you, and I just love that we get this time together.
I have known Elle for over the last year and a half, and I know that she radiates beauty, so she was definitely who I wanted to bring to this arena to talk about how to create a more beautiful space. So, Elle, tell me, what does happiness mean to you?
I love this question. I'm so glad that you're doing this. I love talking about happiness, and so many of us in the circles that we cultivate, our tribe and networks, we talk about having a better life, and happiness is such a key component to how we define that. So for me personally, I feel that when we are in our soul versus in our mind tool that is chattering all the time, we're in a state of innate happiness. Our natural state is to be in this sort of wonderment of all the experiences around us. And I have some wonderful mentors and teachers and people like you in my life who really lean into that philosophy that it's not so much that we have to feel good all the time to be happy. It's that we can experience the richness of life, even the challenges, and choose our peace in those moments and choose to be, oh, that's right, I'm here, I'm not here. And to me, that's a huge source of happiness. And really, for me, at this chapter in my life, what that means.
That is perfect. And we talked about happiness being a trap and kind of having to be in that state of happiness all the time. That's not what it is. It's about being enriched in the moment. And when life has your attention and that's frustrating, knowing that you quickly can move through that when you're looking at it from a broader perspective.
Right. Well said. Yes.
So I have never been to Elle's home in person, but I'm getting the opportunity to do that really soon. And I know that it's going to be everything that I expect and more, because I just know that she radiates love and beauty with everything that she does. So I want to know from you, how can we create more of a beautiful space and in the home that we live in?
Yeah, everybody's always talking about that, right? I mean, in these female, feminine, power-driven circles and groups that we're all part of, and girl friendships that we've had for even a short time, we're talking about that kind of thing. Like, what is it? What's that magical stuff that makes our homes and our spaces, even if it's a tiny bedroom in an apartment in Manhattan, which is kind of where I've spent a lot of time in recent years. And one of the things that I think makes all the difference in how we define our space and whether or not it's beautiful to us is know thyself. We say this in all kinds of industries and in life coaching and decorating and all of these beautiful different twinkling high vibe industries. We talk a lot about being really clear about who you are and what your gifts are, and just leaning into that and trusting that. And so for me, I think beauty in the home is built first on knowing your own story. And story sometimes means what we're making up, and sometimes that means what we really are. So when we get really quiet and we think, okay, who am I? What are my gifts? What do I love to do every day that gets me out of bed? Those are wonderful prompts to start building our home life on. And that can be both visual and experiential, depending on if we have kids coming home from school and what that routine looks like, or if we're working on birthing a new project and we need a new office space for it. Whatever it is to create sanctuary for us is totally possible starting from that point. And then for me, I've learned from a couple mentors and thought leaders in the last couple of years that one of the best things that we can do with our brain tool that prompts us to do things in a certain way is to lean into a word or a phrase that defines the feeling that we're chasing or that we're calling in. So for me, a couple of years ago, it was peace. And everything that I was doing, whether it was the work I was taking on or how I was decorating a given space, centered on, does this bring me more peace, or is this taking it away from me somehow or complicated? And in following years, this year in particular, I'm leaning into spaciousness, which is a word that keeps coming up for me, and discovery as well, but spaciousness is even bigger for me. And what that means is clear the clutter, decide who I want to keep in my life and entertain in my home, and maybe who it's time that chapter closes, and that kind of thing. And so as we're building our beautiful home, we eventually down the line get to the stuff that we bring in, the beautiful treasures that we collect. And first it starts with ourselves. And so to answer that kind of like how to bring in the more physical things, to be more specific, I like to choose the word that I'm interested in or the phrase that I'm going to lean into for a given chapter or a couple months, and then find brands that are already resonating that kind of message. So I was a merchandiser for many years. I worked for quite a few different companies. And one of my main jobs was to inspire consumers to not only give us feedback on products, but also to just buy and love what they were buying and really experience it beautifully. And that carries well into my home and my residential work with clients, because what that brings to the table is a clear definition, and then you go out and find materials that resonate with that. So peacefulness for me meant I'm going to create a lot of white spaces. Spaciousness for me means I'm going to clear those white spaces out of all the clutter, give away things that I think can serve other people, and really literally create some wing space so that I can have a peaceful, spacious home.
So while you were talking, going back to the beginning, I just got this information, this idea that the spaces that I've seen on Instagram or in Pinterest, the ones that were beautiful to me weren't necessarily something that I would have in my home, but maybe it's because that person is so rich in what they love that it's expanding in their space. The homes that I've gone into that I love is because that person is embodying the things that are around them, the things that they love.
I love that. Yes, I totally agree with you. They are telling their story. Yes. And we can all do that. It really is a narrative that we're sharing with the people that we share with our homes. And even if we're hermits and introverts and we hardly ever bring anyone into our home, it's our own personal experience, our own story that we're retelling ourselves, for better or worse. You know, we can have a very cluttered, chaotic home that feels uncomfortable, and that's the story we're repeating. Or we can get clear about what we actually want to feel and build that, and then that's the feedback loop that we're experiencing.
This is so interesting because I lived for a really long time. You know, I rented a house, and we just bought our first house this year.
So excited.
So I've never actually really looked at what do I love. So this has actually been challenging for me to find colors that I love and to bring things in my house that I love, to see how the story unfolds. Mm-hmm. So why is it important for us to love what is in our homes?
Great question. And congratulations on your home. I'm so excited for you. I've been just delighted to watch this process come to bear. And you're doing a beautiful job, by the way. Everything I've seen has been just really you and spot on. So I would say that when we're in the throes of collecting things and discovering what it is we like and what we don't, there's so few rules as far as decorating and that kind of thing these days. But what does seem like an inherent rule to me is, like we talked about, know thyself and be able to tell your story, but do it in flexibility so that you're able to kind of forgive the chance that you're going to paint the wall the wrong color. We're always thinking that as we're picking paint colors, right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be okay. You can so easily replace that and change it in time. As far as why we need to really love the things that we do bring in, I think it's a reflection of our inner state. And when we're bringing in chaotic things or things that don't match with us, we're bringing in confusion, and inner confusion. And so when we just take a little pause and we hold something, or we measure a piece of furniture and decide, oh, this is a little bit too big for my space. I wish it worked, but I'm going to make that hard decision that this isn't the piece for me. We're curating peacefulness and beauty, and we're pacing the way that we choose to do that. It's sort of like not overeating at a meal. If it's a great juicy meal, it's hard not to do that, but we're going to feel so much better when we don't overdo it. The reason that I think it's so important to choose carefully and give yourself that time and flexibility is because our home is really, to me, like a garden, and we're these beautiful vining, reaching plants that grow in this garden. And when we expand outward beyond our home, we're fruitful. We're almost literally fruitful, showing other people what our gifts are and bearing happiness and joy into the world, or we're not. And if our home is a place of rich soil and well-watered and all of those beautiful analogies we can create in a garden, then we are literally doing our best purpose, our best work in the world, which isn't to have a particular job or know what we want to build for a product next. It really is just being fully ourselves. And I think a beautiful home allows us to do that in safety and comfort.
I just love that. And when you're talking about painting the wall the wrong color, I love to like go on a whim. That's just how I am. I'm like, oh, we'll figure it out. So when we were painting our bedroom, I wanted something really warm, but I ended up picking gray, and I do not like it. And Tommy, my husband, loves it, but we're going to eventually redo it. But the walls ended up needing to be fixed anyway, so we're going to redo it. So it's okay. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
Put it up. We didn't like it. We'll do it again. I picked this color for Emilia's room, and you've seen it. I love this, like, it's the sea, bright, vibrant, like, aqua color, and I would paint my entire house this. I love it. I just hang out in her room. Like, I just love this color. Yeah. So I know that plays a role into it too, the colors you use and how you feel in being in certain rooms.
Yes.
So I have been inspired to another question. And how do you, when you're living with another person or multiple people, how do you make them comfortable too? Because obviously your likes and dislikes are going to be a little different.
Mm-hmm. I like that question. That's a really organic question. When I feel there's a little disparity between what my partner likes and what I like, we go back to a conversation about what our family mission statement is, that kind of thing. Not everybody has that. We don't have one in black and white per se, but we key into the phrases or words that we're trying to live by together. So harmony is a big one for us. We've come from such a dynamic relationship history to this place where we're in much more peace. So something that's harmonious for he and I might be that we pick a few things or a few colors that tell a given story, like the family room or the living room might be a place where we play games and we watch movies, and it isn't as much about total relaxation sanctuary as it is about family activity. And so we might choose together, we're going to paint one room or one wall orange, and we're going to do these groovy pillows and this great rug we can hang out on the floor, versus if we were trying to agree together on what the bedroom looks like and we want it to be neutral and calm, we might be able to compromise on that and say, okay, these are the things that I really need. Sleep is sacred to me, and it's much more important to me that this room goes by my guidelines if that's what I need. But the living room is much more a partnership effort, and I'm willing to do whatever you kind of feel like with that. And that's served us really well. Not everybody maybe can do that. And if it comes to comfort versus beauty versus fun, whatever words might be serving the incarnation you're building, like you said, it's okay to make a mistake or to change your mind later, because mistakes aren't really mistakes. They're just learning tools. And it's amazing how many resources we have to make a quick change. So you just about can't go wrong. And talking it through and having a common goal of experience in that space really helps.
So that question led me to my husband and I differ a lot in what we like, and he bought this thing one time. It was the ugliest. I mean, it was like some kind of sun thing. It was the ugliest thing, and I was like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. It'll just be in our space, and I'll just like deal with it. And it got lost. I didn't do it on purpose, but it did get lost somewhere. I think it ended up in the yard sale pile. I didn't do it on purpose, but I allowed it to be in the space, and then it just kind of left when it was time to leave. So just like you said, finding rooms that really mean something to you, and then rooms that you can kind of blend and be.
Yeah. It's a nice gesture for that heartfulness that we're trying to constantly have in our home. You know, Maslow's hierarchy talks about we start with food, water, shelter, like the basics that all animals need, and we work our way up to self-actualization if we make it to that in a lifetime. And somewhere in between, we're in relationship and we're in compromise, and we're trying to feed our own needs, but then other people's needs need to be met as well. Totally possible, and it can be a really fun adventure. And very forgivable when we don't come together, we clash on a given thing, because like you said, somehow cosmically these things just work themselves out, and the sun disappears for a while and a new object will come in, and no hard feelings.
Yeah.
It's amazing when we can just trust that process.
Yeah, awesome. So what do we do when we are looking at things to keep or to get rid of? What tips do you have for us?
Yeah, because really you're in a very privileged situation, and I can relate to that because I've moved somewhat recently as well. We get to literally clean house. We get to just sort everything and touch everything and decide, again, is this worth keeping and relocating? For those people who are not perhaps doing that right now, and then we're in this chaos or this storage room full of things that are getting bigger and bigger, how do we do that? I read Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, at the beginning of this year. Bestseller. There's a lot of people reading that and talking about that right now. I was a little skeptical. I thought, well, how good can this be? I always think that. But it turned out to have some really wonderful tenets in it. And one of them is, and to her credit, she explains this quite well, to categorically go through your home. So choose just one thing. And I started with my wardrobe because that's something that I'm not sentimentally attached to. And literally go through that entire category at once. It might take a day, it might take a week, but see it through in its completeness before you do anything else. And why that works, I think, is because you literally take each item from your socks that are onesies, one-offs, to your outdoor jackets that you might not use for half a year. And when we hold those things, when we kind of honor their service to us over the years, we can decide from that place, like she says, does this bring me joy? And it's amazing how many things we're holding on to for funny reasons. Like, an old boyfriend gave me this jacket. Gosh, I don't want to part with it. Or this is going to fit me next year, so I better hold on to it. I spent so much.
I have a whole bunch of those.
Yeah. And when we get very honest with ourselves, especially when we're clear on what it is we want to experience in a given period of our life, whether that's peace or adventure or whatever, it makes it so much easier to just say, well, does this bring adventure into my life? No, this did at one point, and somebody else is going to have a great adventure with it. Let me just let that go. And what I found is this process is not that complicated. It's just a little bit time consuming, and it takes a lot of honesty on our part to do it. But then at the other side of that, for example, I realized I could get rid of tons of my wardrobe, and new, beautiful, better fitting, more comfortable things filtered in really quickly and affordably, which I didn't anticipate. That was a total bonus. And it also became a bonus to go to my closet and experience the beauty of what I already had in a way that I hadn't been seeing it for years. So I think it's really wonderful to just choose a piece at a time, especially if you can do it by category, and just get that whole thing done with, and then move on to the next one. And for those of you who haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. It's a little bit of a dry read, but you'll get the wonderful gist of it and really put it to work. It's amazing.
I actually just went through my our daughter pulled the jewelry case that I had over on herself. She's okay. But the jewelry case broke. So I had to go through my entire jewelry case, and I had tons of earrings and jewelry, and I really love that process of like picking something up because Elle had told me about this. So I picked it up and I was like, do I really love this? Do I really want this in my, and it was interesting the things that came up that I was like, oh, I need to keep on, I need to hold on to this for some odd reason. But the majority of the things I was able to let go of and put it in the yard sale pile. And
Beautiful.
you feel clearer, you feel freer when you let these things go. Even if they're sitting in the box for the yard sale pile all the way out, you feel like you have more space. You're not holding on to this stuff.
Right. It really, we have this experience of things and stuff in abundance materially in our world. I mean, for most of us, we're living in the Western world, and we really do have tremendous opportunity. And we're also part of a consumer model that is so heavy-handed with us that we end up with a lot of stuff. And we're not born into this world with a lot of stuff. You know, we're lucky if we're living in a diaper for a while, and that's all we need. And so to go from that to having literally thousands of things in our home, you can imagine the mental bandwidth that that takes up, even when we don't realize it, like you said. And then when we create some momentum to put it in that box that it's going to go to someone else, it's really a magical process. And it gives us so much more freedom, spaciousness in our mind, and ease in our soul.
Elle, I loved having you, and for those of you that are interested in working with Elle, if you want to create more space in your home and environment, if you have a project that you think that she would be perfect for, you can find more information linked below. I love this. I could talk about this all day long.
Me too.
Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you too. Thank you for the great questions. I really hope this is helpful to everyone who's watching. And I love that you're doing the happiness series. I'm just thrilled. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.